The top of the list is just a little bit slimy this week. We'll look at that and all the other titles coming right up. Hello everybody and welcome to another weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. I'm Justice R. Stone, and on this channel I cover all things light novels, so if you're just getting into them or you love light novels and you're interested in reviews, news, the Light Novel Podcast is posted here as well, you should consider subscribing. Now for you ongoing viewers, I do apologize I did not get a list posted last week. Well, you know, sometimes life happens, but I am going to post the list from last week in the description down below so you can at least kind of see what titles were in the top 10 last week. And, well, we'll go over the top 10 this week, and hopefully I won't miss any future videos. This one I'm apologizing again because this is coming up a lot later than I usually post these, but unfortunately I didn't get the information until late, and, well, then again, life happens. The trials of being a part-time YouTuber and still having a day job and family that you have to support. So this list is going to be covering October 1st to the 7th of 2018, and of course, as always, it's the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan for that week. Let's get right into it. At number 10, with 5,274 copies sold, volume number 6 of Youheidan no Ryouriban, aka Cook of the Mercenary Corporation. This one does not have an English license for the light novel. I like cooking, but when I was coming back from shopping, I got lost and ended up being the cook of a mercenary unit. I don't know why this happened, but in order to survive, I will make delicious meals. This is the story of the heroic unit which became a legend in the future, and the amazing cook who continued to support them. So this one, of course, like I said, not available in English. It's been on the list before, like previous volumes of this series keep hitting the list every time they come out. As far as I understand it, I guess this is like an isekai, and even though it's a mercenary unit, I guess they do good stuff because, well, they become legendary, and the main character supports them by cooking good meals. I don't know. You know what? If any of you are familiar with this series, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. At number 9, with 5,637 copies sold, volume number 10 of Izakaya Bottakuri, or roughly Izakaya Rolling. There's no English license for this series. And you know what? There's really not a lot of information still available on this series. It's been in the top 10 numerous times. Thanks to one of my viewers, what they said was, it's a bunch of short stories of two sisters taking over a bar after their parents pass away. Its main draw is the whole fluffy iyashike with food, but there's also parts in later volumes dealing with stuff like indoor smoking ban, bad online reviews, a customer worried about care for their elderly parents. So it sounds like it's very much like a slice of life series that focuses on the sisters and the challenges that they face, whether it be new laws that are being considered that will govern their type of business, or even just the concerns of their customers, their ongoing life concerns of their customers. So very much sort of like a slice of life series, and I guess also probably has a little bit of food porn in there for all the foodies as well. At number 8, with 8,025 copies sold, it's the latest volume of Shounen Onmyouji, Odomi no Shingari de Kokorozase. I guess that's the title of this particular volume. This one has no English license for the light novels. There was a 26-episode anime which aired back in 2006, believe it or not, it's been a while. Was licensed by Funimation for English release. The series is set in the Heian era. Abe no Masahiro is the grandson of the great Onmyouji, Abe no Seimei. Seimei passed his teachings on to his grandson, Masahiro, who has lost his sixth sense and the ability to see spirits. Masahiro constantly feels resentful for being in his grandfather's shadow. Even so, one day, Masahiro meets a fox-like creature which he names Mokun, who shows him his true powers after fighting a demon. Mokun is actually Toda, who prefers to be called Gurin. He is one of the 12 Shikigami called the Shinsho, who has pledged his loyalty to Seimei and is helping Masahiro surpass his grandfather. Masahiro's dream to surpass his grandfather may not be realized easily, as not only does he have to convince the other Shinsho that he is Seimei's true successor, he must also increase his power in order to stop the demons coming over from China, the other parts of Japan, the underworld, as well as rival Onmyoujis who want to destroy Japan. He also has to keep his promise to protect Princess Akiko of the Fujiwara clan. Busy guy. Of course, this is like an alt history fantasy type series about a, well, I guess it's kind of like a medium, or he performs magic with the power assisted to him by these spirits. And yeah, I mean, I'm really not familiar with the series. I never saw the anime, and of course, there's no English translation for the light novel. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you're familiar with it in the comments down below. At number 7, with 8,512 copies sold, volume number 11 of Boukyaku Tantei series. This is roughly translates as the Forgetful Detective series. This one is by Nishio Ishin, of course, of the Monogatari series fame. We do not have a license for these books in English. I keep kind of wondering if Vertical's going to pick it up, seeing as how they keep sort of slowly picking up all of Nishio Ishin's works, but, well, we'll see. There was actually a 10-episode live-action drama series that was based on this series, but that aired in Japan. As far as I know, it's never been brought over into English or, like, aired on Crunchyroll or anything like that. Okitagame Kyoko is a famous detective who solves cases in a single day. In fact, she has to, since her memories only last for one day before they reset. However, for important things, she writes messages for herself down on her body with a special pen. One of her common clients is Kakushidate Yakusuko, a man who is often wrongly suspected of committing crimes. So, Nishio Ishin, of course, known for writing sort of detective stories. Zarigoto was his first series, and of course is a detective-ish type series. I say ish because it uses a lot of things, but it also kind of breaks a number of rules and is sort of like a very different take on some of the detective tropes. This one sounds like it's very much that same kind of thing. Like, I mean, sort of the joke that the one guy just keeps fumbling his way into crimes that he gets accused of and then has to rely on the main character to solve the crime and get him out of it. It has a very Memento kind of vibe to it. If you're familiar with that Chris Nolan movie from a number of years back, excellent movie, though. I do highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But it's sort of the same idea. It's a person who's had a brain injury, and his short-term memory is basically completely useless, and so he has to keep writing notes on himself to remember things, and he takes like Polaroids and writes notes on them and stuff like that. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. I don't know what the timing is on this series, whether it coincided or whether Memento did serve as an inspiration for it. At number 6, with 9,197 copies sold, volume number 10 of Youjo Senki, or as we have it in English, the Saga of Tanya the Evil. This one is licensed for English release by Yen On. They're going to be releasing the 4th volume in November of 2018. There was a 12-episode anime which aired January to March of 2017. Anime covered volumes 1 to 2 and most of 3, at least that is what I have been discovering on the internet, although apparently some of the events occurred in different orders in the anime, so it doesn't, even though it covers that material, it doesn't necessarily cover it in the same sequential order. High above the blood and mud-soaked trenches, a young girl pits herself against army mages in high-stakes aerial duels with bullets, spells, and bayonets. Her name is Tanya de Gruchev, and she is the Devil of the Rhine, one of the greatest soldiers the Empire has ever seen. But inside her mind lives a ruthless, calculating ex-salaryman who enjoyed a peaceful life in Japan until he woke up in a war-torn world. Reborn as a destitute orphaned girl with nothing to her name but memories of a previous life, Tanya will do whatever it takes to survive, even if she can find it only behind the barrel of a gun. I read the first volume of this series. It is actually really good. Probably the closest we have to a very serious sort of war light novel series, even though it does sort of incorporate the isekai elements. It's sort of like a retelling of world wars that we have had in our own world, but of course mixing in magic and changing the countries a little bit and stuff like that. Like, it was really cool. I've only managed to read the first volume. I do have the second one on my shelf, but they are big books, like, and dense. Like, the page count is high, and the amount of text on each of those pages is really high. So it's a little daunting sometimes, especially when you're trying to get caught up on a whole bunch of other books. But again, it's definitely one of those series that I enjoyed. Not going to be for everybody. You know, it is at times reads almost more like a historical document talking about, and like a textbook talking about war and the tactics and the theories behind things. So it's not going to speak to everybody. From what I understand, the anime focused a lot more on the action aspects of the series. So, you know, if you're looking for that, maybe that's more up your alley. But definitely, if you are a history buff, you may want to check this one out. At number 5, with 12,752 copies sold, Volume 17 of ReZero, Kare Hajimeru Isekai Seikatsu, or as we have it in English, ReZero, Starting Life in Another World. This one is released in English by Yen On. They've released 7 volumes to date. The 8th volume is coming out, I believe, in November. I have read volumes 1 through 6. Volume 7 I am currently reading. It's actually going to be my next review that I post on the channel. We also have the manga being released by Yen Press. And of course there was an anime series which covered volumes, I believe it was 1 to 9 of the light novel series. That one was streamed on Crunchyroll. Suddenly, high school student Subaru Natsuki has been summoned to another world on the way back from the convenience store. With the biggest crisis of his life being summoned to another world, and with no sign of the one who summoned him, things become even worse when he is attacked. But when he is saved by a mysterious silver-haired girl with a fairy cat, Subaru attempts to return the favor by helping her track down something that was stolen from her. When they finally manage to get a clue, Subaru and the girl are attacked and killed by someone. Subaru then awakens in the place he was summoned and notices he gained the ability Returns by Death, and has become a helpless boy that only has the ability to rewind time to a certain point by dying. Beyond the despair, can he save the girl from the fate of death? I really like this series. I like the characters in the series. I really like the writing of the series. And I very much enjoy that this whole mechanic of the whole return by death, it's taken very seriously, and it really does take a look at what kind of psychological effects, negative psychological effects, something like this could have on a person, especially when Subaru does not control what point he returns to. It's either random or it's something that is beyond his control. Watching him struggle to try and figure out how to fix things, how to survive, it's a really cool series. And like I said, I really like the fact that it doesn't just kind of gloss over how mentally taxing and difficult something like this would be. And it really takes that topic very seriously. It can be very dark. It can be almost like a bit of almost like a horror type novel at some points. Certainly in the more recent volumes, we've met some characters that would be completely at home in a horror movie. So, yeah, I mean, it's a series that I really recommend to people because, like I said, it's very well written. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It is definitely one of those series that I will continue to read so long as we get it. At number 4, with 13,733 copies sold, Volume 11 of Isekai Maou to Shoukan Shoujo no Dorei Majutsu, or as we have it in English, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. This one is licensed for English release by J Novel Club. Volume 5 was released on October 8th. Their manga is licensed for English release by 7 Seas. And of course, there was a 12-episode anime which just finished airing on Crunchyroll. It was just the previous season that it ran for. In fact, I would say that maybe its really decent sales are in... I mean, it's hit the top 10 before, don't get me wrong, but it certainly doesn't seem to be hurting because of the anime. In the MMORPG Cross Reverie, Takuma Sakamoto is so powerful that he is lauded as the Demon Lord by other players. One day, he is summoned to a world outside his own, but with the same appearance he had in the game. There, he meets 2 girls who both proclaim themselves to be his summoner. They perform an enslavement ritual to turn him into their summon, but that's when Takuma's passive ability, Magic Reflection, activates. Instead, it is the girls who become enslaved. Though Takuma may be the strongest sorcerer there is, he has no idea how to talk with other people. It is here he makes his choice, to act based on his persona from the game. Amazing, but of course, I am Diablo, the being known and feared as the Demon Lord. So begins a tale of adventure with an earth-shakingly powerful demon lord, or at least someone who acts like one, taking on another world. So this one, I read the first volume. It was pretty decent. Apparently, there was certainly some itchy moments in the first volume, but wow, it apparently gets pretty racy as the series goes along. One particular scene that I kind of had spoiled for me that happens in Volume 3 surprised me that was in a light novel. And actually, it's really funny because we just did a light novel podcast where Sam from J Novel Club was our special guest, and he was actually saying to us that, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, they considered licensing it initially, but because it was kind of racy, they thought, well, let's get our feet in the door first, and then we'll see how things go and what kind of audience we have before we license something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know what, if you're in the mood for that kind of thing, it's definitely gonna scratch that itch, and it doesn't hurt. I haven't read beyond Volume 1 yet, but I've heard from a number of people that it is quite enjoyable and that the characters are kind of fun and quirky, and the anime, like I said, seemed to be quite well received. So overall, if you like the naughty stuff, this might be one to definitely check out, especially if you like an isekai fantasy at the same time. At number 3, with 14,077 copies sold, Volume 9 of Yokoso Jitsuru Yoku Shijo Shugi no Kiyoshitsue, or as we have it much simpler in English, Classroom of the Elite. This one, I'm finally able to say this one has been licensed for English release. 7 Seas announced this license at Anime Expo. They're going to be releasing the first volume in May of 2019, so we've still got 7 months or so to wait for it, but hey, at least it's coming. That is a lot more than I've been able to say any other time that this series has been in the top 10. Of course, it had a 12-episode anime which streamed on Crunchyroll July to September of 2017, and that really just kicked off this series doing so well. At the point that the anime was airing, several volumes at a time would occupy spaces in the top 10 in Japan. So the anime really did, banner business for this series, and I guess was fairly well received because, yeah, people just seemed to go nuts to go and read the book. So at this point, the anime covered volumes 1 to 3, plus some information, I guess some material from a side novel, which was 4.5. Then again, just like with Saga of Tanya the Evil, there were changes, alterations, things set out of sequence. So most things that I've read online, they say that even if you watch the anime, you should definitely just read the books from volume 1, because there's just so much stuff that's different and everything else. And yeah. This one, at the prestigious Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing High School, which aims to produce the country's future leaders, students are given remarkable freedom. However, they also have to deal with a point system that decides one's place in the school's hierarchy. Aya no Koji Kiyotaka has landed at the bottom in the scorned Class D, where he meets Horikita Suzune, who's determined to work her way back up to Class A, and Kushida Kikyo, who seems like she only wants to make friends. Can they advance through this school where cutthroat competition is the name of the game? I've heard lots of good things about this series, and like I said, the anime really just like catapulted this one in terms of its popularity and sales. I'm really looking forward to checking this one out when we finally get it in May. At number 2, with 14,455 copies sold, it is the latest volume of Kokuhaku Yoko Renshu. This volume called Boku ga Name wo Yobu Hi. This series, known in English as Confession Rehearsal. There's been 3 different anime based on these ongoing series, and it's actually based on the popular Vocaloid series by Honeyworks. It's a series of songs, obviously, if you're not familiar with Vocaloids, that are called Confession Rehearsal. And the first volume, Natsuki, a third year at Sakuragaoka High School, who holds unrequited feelings for her childhood friend Yu, who's in the film club. However, instead of being honest about her feelings, she makes him be her confession rehearsal partner. Unable to say her true feelings, things start to get complicated when Mio and Akari, who are also in the art club, get involved. Will she ever be able to confess for real? So as far as I understand, this series, I guess each volume kind of deals with different people, different couples, different situations, but I believe it is all set kind of in the same school and kind of has the same characters, I think. I'm not 100% sure because I'll be honest, there is not a ton of information available about it in English, because it definitely seems to be much more of a shoujo title, which unfortunately, you know, the light novel and English community is very dominated by males. It's nice to see that we're starting to get some shoujo material released. J-Novel Club's got a couple shoujo, more shoujo-oriented titles coming, but so hopefully, you know, we can expand the community. But right now, like, when a title's a shoujo title, very, very hard to find information on it. So if you're familiar with this one, give me a little bit more information about it in the comments down below, because honestly, this series always does well. Like, it is always in the top 10 every time a new volume comes out, and it stays on the top 10 for a couple of weeks. So, I mean, it's definitely something that I want to amass at least a little bit more knowledge about, because, like I said, it just keeps coming up. Finally, at number 1, with 19,658 copies sold, Volume 13 of Tensei Shitara Slime Dataken. Or, as we have it in English, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. This one is licensed for English release by Yen On. They released Volume 3 on August 21st of this year. There's an anime adaptation which has just started airing this season, which, I mean, this series always does well, don't get me wrong. It almost always places in the top 10, but kind of wondering if the anime is giving it a little bit of a bump. Lonely 37-year-old Satoru Mikami is stuck in a dead-end job, unhappy with his mundane life. But after dying at the hands of a robber, he awakens to a fresh start in a fantasy realm. as a slime monster. As he acclimates to his goopy new existence, his exploits with the other monsters set off a chain of events that will change his new world forever. So I read the first volume of this. It's a series that I would like to read more of, to be honest. It really is... the first volume sets this up very much to be kind of like a community building type series. Like, for instance, he starts sort of assembling different monsters under him and having them peacefully cohabitate and building like much sturdier and permanent sort of housing and stuff like that. Like, there's all this different stuff that's going on in this series. As I understand it now, my initial reaction was I thought that there was going to be a problem between him and humans, that it would be, you know, as monsters were sort of, you know, getting stronger and building a nation of their own, that it would bring them into conflict with humans. But I've heard from a few people that that's not necessarily the case, that as it turns out, I guess this world has, you know, demon lords and stuff like that, higher monsters, that's much more the conflict that drives the series. So yeah, I mean, I like I said, I'm interested to check out more of this one. I'm also curious to see just how much of these series that the anime adapts. Again, I've only read the first volume, so I really don't know, but I'm curious to see. Have any of you watched the anime? Because I think at this point there's at least 2, maybe 3 episodes out. And what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below. This week, I want to say a special thanks to Shotaku, Mitchell Von Region, Kyle Block, Yoon, and Ola OJ the Bull for their support on Patreon, as well as the support of all my patrons who help me buy books for this channel to do my reviews, and also help pay for the hosting for the Light Novel podcast. So it's not just available here on this channel, but it can be reached on a number of other platforms, so we can spread the word about just how awesome light novels are. So those are your top 10 light novels in Japan for the week of October 1st to the 7th of 2018. Thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will do my best not to miss another week and hopefully get this video up earlier. Fingers crossed that I get the information earlier. That'll help a lot. So if you are brand new to the channel and you love light novels, you should subscribe, because I do all things light novels on this channel. And if you're just starting to get into them, it's a great place for you to learn more about different series as well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.